Who would be the people most likely to use a rapid transit system?
Those people who have the need to commute between Dallas and Fort Worth and the intermediate cities.
Some of the people that now drive their own cars?
I would anticipate, yes, that some of those who presently commute in their own automobiles, plus, of course, the anticipated growth of the area and those who in the future will be needing to commute between the cities.
And on the surface, does it look like you would be able to transport a person on this rapid transit system more cheaply than they could go now by driving their own car and paying the toll?
Oh, yes, I would anticipate that there would be a savings to the commuter over the cost of paying the cost of operating his own vehicle, plus, of course, the payment of the toll.
Well, actually, we have always been two separate organizations, two separate councils, for that matter, because we each are governed by a state organization as well as a national organization. There is a Texas Congress for Colored Parents and Teachers as well as a National Congress for Colored Parents and Teachers. And the Dallas Council of Colored Parents and Teachers is still a member with those two congresses, as we are a member of the Texas Congress of PTA.
Has anyone spoken to you or an officer of the Dallas City Council of PTA about merging or co-aligning the organizations?
Well, actually, Mrs. Gillum and I are very good friends, and we have talked at length about what ought to be done. We realize that in the day of the integrated schools, that segregated PTA certainly should be done away with.
Here in Dallas' newest post office complex, the morning run was filled with activity. First on the scene was Postmaster General Marvin Watson, then the widow of the late Congressman Joe Poole. The building was dedicated in honor of Congressman Poole. Other congressmen and, of course, the Dallas postmaster took part in the morning ceremonies. Culminating the activities was the unveiling of a picture of Congressman Poole and a short eulogy. Ceremonies took approximately 15 minutes. Then post office regulars took over and began processing the hundreds of thousands of pieces of mail this station saw in its first day of operation. And that's how it went this day here, Murphy.
First, of course, you must determine whether or not it is something that you can do legally. After that, of course, you must determine whether or not the revenue as compared to cost results in a favorable comparison. If so, then of course you undertake to...
Would this also take a number of the people who presently would ride buses?
I would anticipate that some of those folks, yes, might be tempted to use a rapid transit system.
The problem of drinking while driving, which Texas Department of Public Safety experts say is involved in many fatal accidents in the state, is soon to come under increased enforcement pressure as the Texas Highway Patrol begins use of breath analysis instruments. Colonel Wilson E. Spear, director of the Department of Public Safety, said that 450 highway patrolmen and sergeants have completed training in the use of the breathalyzer, which analyzes a suspect's breath to determine the percentage of alcohol in his bloodstream. The use of the instrument is strictly voluntary, and its results are admissible in court. DPS chemist and toxicologist George Brown explains its use.
The first thing that the officer would do in setting up the instrument in the proper manner would be to purge it. And he would do this by actually aspirating room air through the instrument in this manner right here, by actually pumping it through here. This would fill up the piston with the room air, and then he would turn it to analyze. And now we would be ready to take the breath sample of the subject. Now this would be done by pulling this tube out right here. There would be a mouthpiece, it's an individual mouthpiece used in each case, and the subject would then actually blow his breath into the instrument in this manner. After a good long breath had been blown, the instrument would then catch the last portion of this, then the officer would turn it to analyze, and we would wait for the minute and a half for the chemical reaction to take place. At this time, the officer would mark it on his check sheet, and then he would record the time that that particular test had been made. Now, the next operation would be for the officer to run a control test. He's run a purge, he's run the subject, and now he would run a control test. And this control test would be run by the use of this alcoholic breath simulator. And during this phase, the officer is actually testing the instrument with a known solution of alcohol that has been formed into vapor and blown into the instrument.
Where does this needle have to move to classify a man as having too much alcohol in his system?
Well, the percentage at where all persons are intoxicated is 0.10 or above.
The actual operation of the breathalyzer is a little bit more complicated than what you have seen, but in the interest of time, it was shortened. At least we think you did get the idea. Sooner or later, 90 of these breathalyzer instruments will be utilized throughout the state by the Texas Department of Public Safety in trying to curb fatal accidents caused by drinking while intoxicated. Mike Moss, Channel 8 News.